The awakening. The emergency alert tone echoed through every device on Earth simultaneously. Admiral Elena Rice stood rigid in the United Earth Defense Command Center, her face illuminated by the harsh glow of the main display. Around her, the command staff fell silent as the broadcast began. High Commander Varek of the Vraxian hegemony filled the screen, his iridescent scales reflecting the harsh lights of what appeared to be the bridge of their flagship. Behind him stood 23 humans in tattered uniforms, their faces gaunt but defiant. The crew of the UES Horizon, a research vessel that had gone missing 3 weeks ago near the edges of the Ta-CD system. People of Earth, Varek's voice resonated through a translator, each syllable dripping with contempt. Your species has been warned repeatedly to cease expansion into territories claimed by the Vraxian hegemony. Your weakness is your reliance on diplomacy and your foolish belief that compassion is strength. The alien's four-fingered hand gestured toward the captives. These trespassers were found conducting illegal surveys of worlds already marked for Vraxian colonization. As a demonstration of our resolve, you will witness the consequences of defiance. Without warning, Varek drew a weapon and fired. Captain Julia Chen of the Horizon collapsed, her body disintegrating before she hit the floor. The remaining crew members didn't flinch, though several clenched their jaws tighter. You have 48 Earth hours to withdraw all presence from the Ta-CD system. For each day of non-compliance, another prisoner will be executed. We will broadcast each death to your entire planet. The transmission cut to black. In the ensuing silence, Admiral Rice turned to face General Marcus Santos of the United Earth Military Command. The tension in the room was suffocating. Options, Rice asked, her voice steady despite the rage building within her. Conventional response would be to mobilize the Fifth Fleet, Santos replied, but they're 3 days out even at maximum burn. The Vraxians have a battle group of at least 30 vessels in system, and diplomatic channels. Ambassador Linway, who had been watching from the corner of the room, stepped forward. Severed. They've rejected all communication attempts since the broadcast. Reyes closed her eyes momentarily. In the 150 years since humanity had ventured beyond their solar system, they had encountered 7 intelligent species. 6 had become allies or neutral parties. The Vraxians were the exception. A species that evolved as apex predators on a resource-scarce world, they viewed expansion as a biological imperative and diplomacy as a sign of weakness. Activate Protocol Prometheus, Rice finally said. The command center fell silent. Protocol Prometheus had been established after the First Contact War, but had never been implemented. It represented something humanity had worked for generations to move beyond. Admiral, Santos cautioned, once activated, there's no going back. The UN Charter specifically. I know what it means, General, Rice interrupted. They believe our restraint is weakness. It's time they learned what we've been holding back. Across Earth's military installations, sealed orders were unsealed. In orbital docks, specialized ships that had been disguised as research vessels began powering up systems that had never been publicly acknowledged. In secure facilities around the world, soldiers who had volunteered for classified augmentation programs were awakened from suspended animation. Humanity had spent the last century cultivating peace, not because they couldn't wage war, but because they knew all too well what they were capable of. Their bloody history had taught lessons that the Vraxians, in their arrogance, were about to learn. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Mariana Trench, Dr. Eleanor Walsh watched as technicians prepared to bring the Aurora online. The quantum AI had been designed specifically for warfare, but kept dormant by international treaty, except in the most extreme circumstances. Are you sure about this? Her assistant asked, watching as the massive system began its activation sequence. No, Walsh admitted, but I'm even less sure about leaving those people to die. Aboard the stealth vessel UES Nemesis, Captain Alejandro Diaz briefed his crew. all volunteers who had undergone extensive genetic modifications and neural implants designed to enhance their combat capabilities. "We are the sword that humanity hoped never to unsheathe," he told them, his voice resonating through the ship. "But make no mistake, we will cut deep." The Nemesis and its sister ships, Retribution, Vengeance, Justice, and Reckoning, represented the darkest capabilities of human military technology. Designed with systems reverse-engineered from various alien technologies and enhanced by human ingenuity, they had been kept secret even from most of Earth's government. High Commander Varric reviewed the intelligence reports with growing annoyance. Earth's response was puzzling. They had recalled diplomatic missions and civilian ships from contested regions, but there was no significant military mobilization that his spies could detect. "They appear to be capitulating," his second-in-command observed. "Unlikely," Varric replied. "Humans are predictable in their emotional attachments. They will attempt some form of rescue." "Should we execute another prisoner as scheduled?" Varric considered this. "Yes. Let them watch another die while they deliberate. It will break their resolve faster." The second broadcast came exactly 24 hours after the first. This time, the Vraxians executed Dr. Maria Okonkwo, the Horizon's chief scientist. Again, the remaining prisoners showed remarkable composure, one of them even stepping forward to close her eyes after she fell. What the Vraxians failed to notice was the subtle change in the captive's demeanor. A new tension in their posture, a focus in their eyes that hadn't been there before. They had received the message hidden in Earth's apparent inaction. Something was coming. Admiral Reyes watched the second execution with the Earth Defense Council, her expression stone-like. "The Prometheus fleet will arrive in 18 hours, she informed them. "We've activated the Guard Ion defense network to protect Earth in case of retaliation." "And the captives?" President Torres asked. "Rescue is a primary objective," Reyes confirmed, "but not the only one." As the Council debated the morality and implications of Protocol Prometheus, deep space monitoring stations detected unusual quantum fluctuations near the edge of the solar system. The 5 ships of the Prometheus fleet had activated their experimental FTL drives, technology that the rest of the galaxy believed humans had not yet mastered. Aboard the Nemesis, Captain Diaz felt the familiar disorientation as the ship tore through the fabric of space. Unlike conventional FTL technology used by other species, human quantum drives didn't navigate through subspace. They temporarily removed the ship from normal spacetime altogether. "Neural links active," his executive officer reported. "Combat enhancement systems online. All crew showing green." Diaz nodded, feeling the ship's systems interface directly with his augmented nervous system. The neural link allowed him and his crew to operate as a single organism, their reaction times reduced to milliseconds. "Weapons?" he asked. "Kinetic kill vehicles loaded, Hellfire plasma cannons charged, quantum disruptors at full capacity." Diaz allowed himself a grim smile. The Vraxians believed they were dealing with a species that had chosen peace out of weakness. They were about to learn that humans had chosen peace precisely because they knew what they were capable of when pushed too far. The UES Horizon's surviving communications officer, Lieutenant David Chen, had been counting the seconds since their capture. 3 weeks, 2 days, 17 hours, and 43 minutes had passed since the Vraxian assault on their vessel. He had watched 2 of his crewmates executed for an audience of billions back on Earth. But unlike the Vraxians, he understood what those executions would trigger. Humanity's restraint wasn't weakness. It was a dam holding back a flood. And now, that dam had been deliberately broken. As he sat in the cell with his remaining colleagues, he felt it, a subtle vibration through the deck plates of the Vraxian flagship. Not the normal hum of engines, but something else. Something approaching. "It's starting," he whispered to the others. In the vastness of space surrounding the Tau Ceti system, reality itself seemed to shudder as 5 ships emerged from quantum translocation. On their hulls, no markings identified them as human vessels. No broadcasting identification signals announced their presence. They came in silence, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light, appearing as moving voids against the starfield. The Vraxian sensors detected them only when they were already inside the defensive perimeter of the fleet, an impossibility according to known physics. And then, breaking the communications blackout that had lasted since the first execution, a single message was broadcast to the Vraxian flagship. "We are not weak. We are restrained. That restraint has now been lifted." The HFY High Commander Varric stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 5 unknown vessels had appeared within his fleet's defensive perimeter, a maneuver that should have been impossible according to all known laws of physics. More disturbing was the sensor data, or rather, the lack of it. The ships absorbed active scans without reflection, their hulls registering as voids in space rather than solid objects. "Raise shields and power weapons," he ordered, his outer membrane flushing with combat pheromones. "All vessels to battle formation Alpha." But before his fleet could respond, the intruders moved with impossible precision. The largest of the 5 vessels accelerated toward his flagship, while the others dispersed among his fleet, like predators selecting prey. Aboard the UES Nemesis, Captain Diaz and his neural-linked crew operated as a single entity. Their enhanced reflexes and direct interface with the ship's systems eliminated the delays of verbal commands and manual controls. The vessel responded to their thoughts as if it were an extension of their bodies. "Target their weapon systems first," Diaz ordered through the neural network. "Disable, don't destroy. We need their ships intact for the extraction." The Nemesis unleashed a barrage of precisely calculated kinetic projectiles. Simple tungsten rods accelerated to a fraction of light speed. At those velocities, they carried the energy of tactical nuclear weapons without the radiation. The flagship's shields flared and collapsed under the onslaught as the projectiles decelerated just enough to penetrate the vessel's hull at key structural points without breaching the habitable sections. Across the Vraxian fleet, the pattern repeated as the other Prometheus vessels engaged. Not a single shot was aimed to destroy. Each strike disabled propulsion, weapons, or communications with surgical precision. This wasn't a battle, it was systematic neutralization. Inside the flagship's break, Lieutenant Chen and the surviving crew of the Horizon felt the impacts resonating through the structure. Emergency lighting flickered on as main power faltered. "What's happening?" Dr. Sanjay Kumar, the ship's xenobiologist, whispered. "Earth didn't withdraw forces," Shen replied with grim satisfaction. They sensed something else. The cell door suddenly slid open. Standing in the corridor was a figure in matte black combat armor unlike anything they had seen before. The helmet retracted, revealing a human face, a woman with augmentation circuitry visible along her temples. "Lieutenant Commander Sophia Reeves, UES Retribution," she introduced herself. "We're here to bring you home." "But how?" one of the scientists began. Later, Reeves cut him off. "We need to move now. Can everyone walk?" As the prisoners were being evacuated, Captain Diaz guided the Nemesis into position directly above the Vraxian flagship's command center. Inside his neural link, he received confirmation that the rescue teams had secured all surviving prisoners. All captives secure and en route to Retribution. His XO confirmed through their shared consciousness. "Good. Prepare boarding party. I want High Commander Varric taken alive." On the flagship's bridge, chaos reigned. Varric watched helplessly as system after system went offline. His fleet, the pride of the hegemony's 3rd Expeditionary Force, had been neutralized in less than 15 minutes without a single ship being destroyed. "Impossible," his tactical officer hissed, scales flaring in distress. "Their technology far exceeds our intelligence reports. They concealed their true capabilities." Varric realized too late. "The humans we've been observing, those were what they wanted us to see." The deck shuddered as something attached to the hull above them. Cutting tools began to carve through the reinforced plating of the ceiling. Varric drew his sidearm, knowing it would make little difference. The ceiling collapsed inward as armored figures dropped onto the bridge. Their movements were too fast to track properly, their reflexes enhanced beyond what should be biologically possible. Within seconds, every Vraxian officer except Varek had been neutralized with non-lethal precision. One figure approached Varek, helmet retracting to reveal a human male with eyes that glowed with circuitry. "High Commander Varek," Captain Diaz stated rather than asked. "I am Captain Alejandro Diaz of the United Earth vessel Nemesis. You are being detained for crimes against humanity and violations of interstellar law." "You hide your true nature well, human," Varek replied, lowering his weapon in surrender. "We believed your species had grown soft." "No," Diaz corrected. "We chose peace because we remember war. We chose cooperation because we know what we become when we don't. What you witnessed today wasn't humanity's true nature unleashed. It was precision and restraint even in the execution of violence." In the aftermath, all 21 surviving crew members of the Horizon were safely recovered. The Vraxian fleet, disabled but largely intact, was secured by Earth forces arriving afterward. No Vraxian lives were lost in the operation, a point that Admiral Rise would later emphasize in her address to the United Galactic Assembly. High Commander Varek and his senior officers were brought to Earth to stand trial for the executions, which were classified as war crimes under interstellar law. During his testimony, Varek finally understood the fundamental error in the hegemony's assessment of humanity. "We mistook your reluctance to use force as inability," he admitted to the tribunal. "We failed to recognize that choosing not to destroy when you can is greater strength than destruction itself." The Prometheus Protocol was deactivated following the rescue operation. The 5 ships returned to their hidden docks, their crews once again placed in suspended animation. The Quantum Eye Aurora was powered down and resealed in its secure facility. The technologies demonstrated during the operation were classified at the highest levels, with most of humanity unaware of just how overwhelming the response had been. In the years that followed, the Vraxian hegemony approached human space with newfound caution. Other species took note as well. The message was clear without being explicitly stated. Humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not a limitation. Admiral Rice stood at the memorial ceremony for Captain Chen and Dr. Okonkwo, watching as their families accepted posthumous honors for their sacrifice. "Do you think the Vraxians learned their lesson?" President Torres asked quietly. "I hope everyone did," Rice replied. "The Prometheus Protocol exists because we remember what we're capable of at our worst. But what we showed wasn't our worst, it was our best channeled through necessary action." Torres nodded solemnly. The ancient Greeks had a saying about Prometheus. He didn't just give humanity fire, he gave us the wisdom to use it. "And the responsibility to know when not to," Rice added. As night fell on the ceremony, the stars became visible in the sky above. Among them were worlds where other intelligences were now reassessing their understanding of the deceptively peaceful humans. They had witnessed not just technological superiority, but something more profound, a species that had mastered itself. Lieutenant Chen, still recovering in a military hospital, watched the ceremony via broadcast. A nurse asked him if he felt vindicated by the rescue and the Vraxian defeat. "Not vindicated," he answered thoughtfully. "Reminded." "Of what?" she asked. "That humanity isn't peaceful because we can't fight. We're peaceful because we remember what happens when we do." Beyond the Sol system, across the vastness of space, inhabited by dozens of sapient species, a new understanding of humanity spread. They were not the technological inferiors many had assumed. They were not naive idealists playing at diplomacy because they lacked alternatives. They were something far more complex. Predators who had recognized the price of predation, warriors who had seen the cost of war and had chosen a different path not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. And if that path was threatened, they had shown what slumbered beneath their restraint, not mindless rage or primitive brutality, but something far more terrifying, methodical, precise, overwhelming force applied with surgical control. The broadcast that had been meant to demonstrate human weakness had instead awakened a response that redefined strength in the eyes of the galaxy.